In 1955, Allen Ginsberg wrote the poem Howl. He read it at the famous Sixth Gallery reading in October 1956. Many critics and academics and poets were astounded at the poem, and all knew Ginsberg was breaking language taboos in the conservative 50s. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, a poet and owner of City Lights Bookstore and Press in San Francisco, published the poem. The poem was immediately banned as obscene. This official ruling was lifted after a short hearing, and the poem became a great success. During this time period, Ginsberg met his longtime lover, Peter Orlovsky. I met both Ginsberg and Orlovsky at Ginsberg's last reading at the University of Oklahoma in 1993. As Ginsberg's poem became more and more popular, he began to define his life politically. To follow Ginsberg's life from the publication of Howl to his death in 1997 is to follow the counterculture movement. Politically, Ginsberg fought against archaic obscenity laws that often banned his work as well as the work of others. Many believe this country owes a lot to Ginsberg for fighting for freedom of speech. Ginsberg claimed he was monitored his whole life by the FBI for his positions on free speech, drugs, and sexuality. As he got older, Ginsberg grew out his hair and beard and became a spokesperson for the peace movement during the Vietnam War era. As a well-known poet, Ginsberg was friends with Bob Dylan and the Beatles. Ginsberg collaborated on 2 songs with Dylan. Ginsberg also worked with John Lennon in the peace movement in the late 1960s. During the 1960s, Ginsberg met up with Timothy Leary, who was a Harvard psychology professor researching the effects of psychedelic drugs, most notably lysergic acid or LSD-25. Leary and Ginsberg worked together, and Ginsberg went on a number of acid trips. Ginsberg was to advocate the judicious use of LSD and pot throughout his life. Ginsberg testified before Congress about the benefits of LSD when the government determined to make the drug illegal shortly after Leary's experiments ended. Ginsberg was a lead Vietnam War protester at the 1968 National Democratic Convention in Chicago. He was tear-gassed along with other demonstrators in Lincoln Park. Later, the Chicago 7, which included Abbie Hoffman, were tried for inciting a riot at the convention. Ginsberg testified at their trial. The Chicago 7 was convicted, but later the conviction was reversed on appeal. During the 1970s, Ginsberg and Anne Waldman formed the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics at the Naropa Institute in Boulder, Colorado, which still offers summer programs in literature and creative writing. Ginsberg taught there, and he later taught for many years at New York University. Ginsberg gave numerous poetry readings across the country each year, and his readings were fun, raucous affairs. His last reading at the University of Oklahoma, for example, drew more than 5,000 people. During the late 1980s, Ginsberg arranged for his collected works to be published in England and then later in the United States. Ginsberg always lived an austere life, and the money he earned went to help fellow poets and others in need of legal help in freedom of speech cases.